What's up, fellas? I feel like we haven't seen each other for a long, long time.
Quarantine life.
Yeah, I feel like this is the new norm. Like anybody I've hung out with has been through Zoom in the last month, besides my family.
I think Zoom is one of the few businesses throughout this situation that's doing very well.
No kidding. I've had a couple friends roll up to my house in their truck and they just like talk to me from their truck window. Like you, B-Mac. B-Mac came over and he's just like, the microphone's in the back seat.
We're doing a deal.
Like, you just gonna sit there? Like, come on.
Drive by.
Drive by.
So, Case, what's it like having 4 kids at home for this many days in a row?
Oh my God. I'll tell you this. If we didn't appreciate teachers before this, I appreciate the heck out of all my kids' teachers, because the program we're on is we're doing homeschool now. So they get packets sent home every week that they have to do. And my 2 oldest are pretty good. They do all theirs on the computer, but my 5-year-old who's in kindergarten, what shouldn't be a big deal, kindergarten work, he broke his right arm 2 weeks ago. And so he can't write. And so I have to write everything down for him. So I have to go through and do all of his worksheets with him. And there's a reason I didn't become a teacher. I have very little patience when trying to teach people. Trying to teach people sight words, not fun.
Not gonna lie, Eric, you can vouch for me on this. Not terrible not having kids at home.
It's not that bad.
At least not right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
no kidding.
we've gotten some chores done that I've been wanting to get done for a long time though. So it's been nice having some workers around the house after they get their schoolwork done.
Yeah. You want an allowance, buddy?
The garage has been cleaned out at least 3 times.
You're not even really, I feel like you haven't even been home that much. You're just out crushing the sheds, really.
Yeah, I really haven't, but each time I do come home, it's just chore after chore, like taking care of the yard. My sprinkler's now busted. My garage is getting worked on. But yeah, I've been out of town quite a bit on the road.
So what?
Home ownership, buddy.
Yeah, right. All the adult problems. What should the viewers expect from this upcoming few videos from the shed tour?
So Shed Tour, for anybody who doesn't know, Shed Tour is a series that we do every spring dedicated to shed hunting. Getting out on the mountain, getting outdoors, inspiring others to do the same, and really sharing the mountain with a bunch of friends I've met mostly through social media that have the same passion for sheds as I do. So coming up is going to be a backcountry style shed hunt that Martin, myself, and my buddy Willie went on. We used the Can-Am. We got tracks on the Can-Am, which was so cool. Dude, it was unreal. But yeah, tons of sheds, good times, campfires, like a lot of antler pickups. And I just watched them all, the 3 videos that are coming out, and I'm literally like, these are some of my favorite shed videos I've ever made.
That's
so anybody who likes just getting out, I think will enjoy these next ones.
Dang, that sounds amazing right now.
It was fun. It was that same feeling even for me. I was sitting there. I was like, Martin, doesn't this make you want to be on the mountain again? Just eating snacks, campfire, just the hush life,
Not terrible, yeah.
Excuse me.
These days are definitely different. I'd say been at home quite a bit since the old steelhead trip we did with Born and Raised. I did go on one experimental fishing camping trip. Fishing was not very successful. Camping was fun, but we're all starting to feel the wrath of different states out west kind of closing down shop. I know it seems to be a moving daily needle, but so far I've had a bear tag in Oregon that's been kind of closed temporarily. There's a possibility that they'll open it up, but I don't expect it. If you didn't have a fishing license or a hunting license in Idaho for like turkeys or bears, you're out as a non-resident. Montana, you're out. Wyoming, you're out.
Yeah, that's wild.
What are we going to do,
it's
dude?
Kind of weird to see how each state treats it a little different so far.
Well, I've been wondering, they've been shutting down. So they stopped selling non-resident licenses here in Idaho starting, I think, April 4th it was. So if you had your license before, you were still welcome to come hunt turkeys, hunt bears, or go fishing. Well, the governor just put out a new, what are they even called? It's not
Order.
A law. Order. Put out a new order so we were shut down except for essential business until the 15th. And then he just came out today and extended that till May 1st. But he also basically shut down the border. So they were using the licensing thing to kind of like prevent people from coming in to recreate. but he came out and said today that any non-resident that comes into the state of Idaho has to quarantine themselves for 14 days
That's
once
Wyoming.
entering the state.
Yeah,
But
so Wyoming
if you
did
think
that.
about it, is quarantining yourself. So say you have a bear tag, and you really want to come hunt bears, and you have the time because you're not working. Could you come and hunt bears for 14 days by yourself?
Interesting question. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking before I left on my last shed hunt, which was just a solo. I was like, maybe I'll stay out here for 14 days and just make a series about it. But dude, 3 days back there, I was beat. I was alone, and dude, 14 days just out there alone, that'd be pretty tough.
Yeah.
So for everybody watching on the old YouTube channel, for starters, we just want to say that we appreciate your support. There's been a lot of activity on the channel. Certainly, a lot of folks still buying our merchandise, and thankfully, so far we're up and running still, which is awesome. And we've kind of done our best to make do with some old throwback videos. I know we got some new shed stuff coming out, and we decided we're going to start doing some of these Zooms. So today's topic, we're going to just kind of look back on the old time clock and talk through kind of how the Hush brand got started. We've had a lot of folks kind of inquire about that. Some of you guys might be more familiar if you followed our brand for a while. Some of you may not know. I think it's a cool story. I think it's a story of a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, a little bit of entrepreneurship, and here we are, quite a few years later, still trying to figure it all out. But that's the plan for the day. So we're gonna dive on back and just kind of roll the time clock back to how it all started. Like, how the heck do guys just come up with the ability to make a living off making hunting and fishing videos on YouTube? That to me was always the $1 million question when I first met Casey. So, I mean, that's probably a good place to start, Casey. So walk us through how you got the freaking channel started and why on earth you would even consider such a thing. Especially, this is in June of 2011, right?
2011, yeah. Well, before we start this thing, I'd definitely say, and it's kind of been a phrase we've used for the last few years, but like, if you listen to this story, it's very pronounced that everything happens for a reason. Like, we were put in certain places, or we choose certain paths because they're going to lead to something that we don't have any idea of, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason that we're all three sitting here right now is a perfect example of that phrase. Things happen for a reason. And so starting back till 2011, I was living in northern Utah. I had 2 kids at the time. I was married, and I was working at the local steel mill there in northern Utah. My wife was cutting hair at this local salon. Anyway, I knew what YouTube was a little bit just because of my older brother. My brother Shay had started doing YouTube probably in 2009 or 2008. And basically he came across YouTube by just watching random videos that were on YouTube at the time. And there was very select few. I think the popular ones back then that got him started were what was that dude that used to go around and fight people on the streets?
Kimbo
Eric,
Slice.
you know this guy, Kimbo Slice. He used to have a series where he'd go and like pay people to let him punch him or whatever. Anyway, so my brother started watching these videos, and then he had some crazy idea. He didn't own a computer at the time. He'd watch him at work, but he bought a computer, and then he figured out, oh, anybody can make a YouTube video. So there was some other people that were making YouTube videos at the time, and he would watch them, and then he just learned that he could make videos. So he started making just dumb videos with his wife and kids, and not understanding that you could get paid for it. So he made videos, just in fun for a few months, and then he got a check from YouTube, and it was for like, I think the way he said it was like the first check came and it was like enough to pay like my cell phone bill. So like $80. He's like, babe, I got paid for making these videos. Anyway, he continued doing it. Long story short, he owned a granite business, and then in about a year time after starting making YouTube videos, the YouTube money replaced his granite business money. And so he quit granite, started making YouTube videos full time. Anyway, so that whole time was going. I was watching him. I started my personal channel in 2009 just so I could go and watch his videos and comment on his videos. And so he did it for a few years and became pretty successful at it. And in the meantime, he moved his family to California to start a production company with some other YouTubers that were down in LA. And they moved back for whatever reason, a couple of years. In like 2010, they moved back. And he one night convinced me that I should probably start a YouTube channel. I was never the guy to be in front of the camera. My brother always was. Since we were growing up, he always wanted the attention on him. He wanted the camera on him. We even have old like VHS tapes at Christmas when we were like 10 and 12 years old that he's turning this giant camcorder around on himself, like videotaping himself. And you can hear my mom in the background being like, Shay, you better not be recording yourself. So he was vlogging back in the 90s, really. Anyway, that wasn't me. I was never that guy, but I always wanted to do something in the hunting industry because I was always very passionate about hunting and fishing and about the outdoors. And there was no really avenue for that unless somehow you got a TV show, which I had no idea how to do at the time. So he was like, dude, you should start making hunting videos on YouTube. And I was like, man, there's like no one would watch hunting videos on YouTube. But he convinced me in 2010 that one day maybe there would be people that wanted to, you know, gather their outdoor entertainment on YouTube. So fast forwarding until 2011, they were getting ready to move back to LA. And like I said, I had a channel, never uploaded a video or anything. This was June 10th, 2011. He basically handed me a camera and said, try vlogging. And I started running my mouth about, I don't even know, I haven't watched that video in years, but talked about whatever for 3 or 4 minutes. Went home. Next day, he called me. He's like, hey, man, check out your YouTube channel. And so I got on there and I was like, whoa, I have like 1,600 subscribers. And I noticed that he had uploaded my video to my channel, that video to my channel. And I was like, why'd you do that, man? I don't want to like put myself out there. And he's like, go read the comments. And so I started reading the comments and I was like, well, you know, oh, you're funny. You're funnier than Shay. Like, and that kind of gets you to your head pretty quick, you know, and you're like, after about 10 minutes reading comments, I was like, yeah, you know, I am pretty funny. So I am funnier than Shay.
So pause right there. So Eric, circa 2011, dude, what are you doing?
2011, man, I think at that time I was a licensed guide, and I think I was working on a CWMU in Southern Utah. And right before that, I was working at Sportsman's Warehouse in the shoe department. I worked there for about 5 years. But yeah, always trying to figure out a way, like, how can a guy make money going hunting? And, you know, that was like the $1 million question. So at the time I was doing all kinds of stuff, but I think I was working at a CWMU in the fall. So I quit my job at Sportsman's, and even the CWMU operator, Jim Giles, was like, wait, whoa. Like, yeah, we wanted your help, but we didn't want you to quit your job. I'm like, oh, I don't care about that job that much. I want to go film hunt. So I think in 2011, I was filming hunts for CWMU.
Interesting, yeah.
Just kind of being their cameraman and spotter and whatever.
I think ironically enough, in 2011, I was out of work. I just gotten fired after a 9-year run at one of my corporate companies, and I was on a bit of a sabbatical, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. So you get the first video uploaded, Case, right? Shay secretly uploads it for you, and at that point in time, what are you kind of thinking about?
So at that time, now thinking about what I was talking about was Logan, our cameraman now, who was back then in high school. He was probably a sophomore in high school. And he had just started a YouTube channel as well. And he was doing well. He was just filming his daily life of being a high schooler. And I'd always give him a hard time because he had built up an audience. He probably had like 20 or 30,000 followers at this time. And I would always joke with him, be like, dude, I could get way more followers than you if I really wanted to do this. And so I think that's what I vlogged about, was I was calling Logan out, like, yeah, I could get more followers if I wanted to do this. Never thinking I'd ever upload that video to YouTube. And then Shay did that. So then after reading the comments a little bit and getting a big head, I was like, oh, man, I should try this. Like, I like being funny. I like making people laugh. Maybe that's my stick on this whole YouTube thing. It's just being the funny guy. So then I committed to just trying it. And so I made a couple of videos. And when I made videos, I had no idea how to upload them, how to edit them, anything. I was living in Utah. Logan was still here in Pocatello going to high school. So I would make a couple of videos, and then I would hire Logan to come down on the weekend and edit my videos for me. And he would edit the videos and then upload them for me. And so I started doing it that way. And that was in June. So I made I had to have to look, probably like 3 or 4 videos in the month of June. Like I said, I was working full-time at a steel mill. We had just bought a brand new house. I had a lot of responsibilities. And then, so my brother Shay had moved to LA, and he invited us out there for the 4th of July. And so me and my wife, my 2 kids, flew out to LA, to go hang out with Shay and his family for the weekend. And so while we were there, we met some of the founders of the production company that they had started, I believe, in 2009 or 2010. And one of the founders of that company her name was Lisa Nova, and she was in charge of new talent or new content. And she had talked to my wife one night while we were in LA about they wanted to start this mom's channel, and because YouTube was looking for mom type content on YouTube. So she had talked to Kaylee, my wife, about coming out to LA, moving to LA to start this mom's, it was called the Mom's View, or going to be called the Mom's View. So it was going to be my sister-in-law, and then Kaylee. We're going to be running this Mom's View. I was thinking pipe dreams, we were in LA, we flew home, great trip, had a lot of fun. I bought a laptop and she had taught me how to edit while I was down there. And so I got home thinking, I'm going to start making more YouTube videos. And then my wife came to me after we got home. She's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, think about what? She's like, moving to LA. I'm like, yeah, right. Like, we literally have this house payment. I have this I shouldn't say great. It was a solid job at the steel mill. And it would never even cross my head. After leaving LA, it never crossed my head that we were going to actually move to LA and do this thing. And then my brother called the next day and was like, well, what are you guys thinking? I'm like, dude, there's no way, I'm the type of guy. Because when Shay started doing all this, and I'll admit this, I was kind of like, dude, you have a family. Like, you can't just be chasing this crazy dream of being a YouTuber, which I didn't even really know what was a YouTuber back then. But I was like, you have a family, you have a responsibility. You can't just move your family to LA to do this YouTube thing. You got to have like a 9-to-5 job, because that's what was always taught to me. Like, you have to have a solid job, but you have to be committed to it because you have these responsibilities. So when I was telling him that, I was like, me, I'm not that guy to like chase these dreams. And he kept saying like, what's worst case scenario? What's worst case scenario? I'm like, well, I wouldn't have a job. He's like, you can always go get another job. But if you don't do this thing, you'll always look back and be like, man, I had a chance to do something that wasn't that 9-to-5. So after about 2 weeks, and I'm giving it up to my wife, man, if she wasn't so persistent about doing it. And to be honest, like, she was the last person I thought would want to do this, because her dad was the 9-to-5 guy. He worked at the same steel mill I did. He had, since he was 20 years old, he helped me get a job there. And once you get a job at the steel mill, you just work there until you're retired, because it pays really well. It's hard work, not the greatest environment, but it pays well, and it's a solid job. So in my head, I was
going to say, so you guys are essentially considering just like shutting down shop at Utah, selling the house or renting it out or whatever, and just moving to LA on a whim to try out this YouTube thing.
We didn't even have that much figured out. We were just like, I didn't want to sell the house. Like, we'd been in the house for a year, finally had bought a new house. And, in my head, I was like, man, we made it. Like, I have a solid job. My wife works and does well. We have this beautiful home. Like, I'm just going to work my butt off and pay this house off over the next 30 years. So in my head, when she finally convinced me that we were going to do this, and I didn't want to sell the house, because to me, like, having a house and a mortgage was somewhat normal, right? Instead of just moving to LA, not having anything to show for, what you've been working for, I was like, I'm going to figure out a way to keep the house, because that if something happens in LA and we have to move back, like, we have a house to move back into. So we loaded up in August. Man, it's crazy to think about this. Loaded up in August and drove to LA, 12 hours down to LA, unloaded everything in the house, and woke up the next morning just wondering what was I thinking? Like,
so it's safe to say though, like, the LA move, it paid off. You guys both got your channels going. She got the Mom's View going. Like, you're kind of in this little YouTube hub community with a lot of other people who are in a similar position trying to start it off, but overwhelmingly it kind of worked, right? I mean, took some time
it did take some time. Like, what was hard for me is, like, I was the breadwinner when we were in Utah. I was making the majority of money. Kaylee was making great money, but I was making the majority of the money, paying the house payment, paying all the bills. And then when we moved to LA, like, mind you, I only probably had maybe 10 videos at the most uploaded on my channel when we moved to LA, and I became a full-time YouTuber. Like, you can't become a full-time YouTuber with a library of 10 videos, right? So we moved to LA, and, like, I'm grinding, trying to make much content as I could. But Kaylee became the breadwinner because she had this built-in income. They were going to pay her a salary to work on the Mom's View. Plus, she had started her own channel, and they were going to produce all her videos. So she was busting butt. Like, we moved down there. She was filming probably 3 to 4 days a week at the studio or in the house, and she had a crew of camera guys, editors, but she was busting her butt and I was just vlogging, right? So I was kind of lost at first. I was probably making maybe, I don't know, $1,000 a month, hopefully. And we were living off what Kaylee was doing. So it was kind of hard for me at the time, but yeah, it worked. It paid off. We lived in LA, you know, long story short, we lived in LA for 3 years. But so that we moved down in August, and in my head, I said, like, I'm going to vlog because I enjoy making people laugh, but I really want to try the hunting thing. So that fall, we moved in August. That fall, I rounded up some money. I don't know where I got money. I had some money, obviously, from stock options and stuff where I left the steel mill, but I flew back to Idaho or to Utah in September of that same year, and I filmed, I believe, 4 or 5 hunting videos.
With the
I was
intent
gone for a
in your
month.
head, the intent in your head is like, these are going to go up on maybe a side hunting channel that I'm going to start here.
Exactly. Yeah. So I went and filmed 4 or 5 videos without even having a hunting channel, but that was the idea, was I was going to start this hunting channel. So I was gone for a month, flew back, and I sat on the content for like a month and a half, not really knowing what was going to go on. I didn't have a name for the channel. I didn't have a channel. I was just, you know, not really understanding what I needed to do. But so finally in November, have we ever talked about where we got the name?
I don't think so.
No.
So the day, I know I'm going back and forth, I apologize, but the day before we were loading the rental truck to move down to LA, my neighbor, who I'd never met before, his name was Chris, came over to me and he was like, and knocked on the door and he's like, "Hey man, I'm Chris. I'm your neighbor." And we'd lived there for maybe a year. He's like, "I've never talked to you, but I hear that, you know, a rumor that you guys are moving to LA to do this YouTube thing." I'm like, "Yeah, we are. Pretty crazy, right?" And he's like, "Man, I have this apparel company I'm trying to start off." And he had a pamphlet with some like design ideas for shirts and hats. He's like, "Man, like I'd love to work with you. Maybe like, you know, once you start your hunting channel, like maybe we could work together." And his brand was called Hushin, or I think it was Hushin, which was hunt and fishing. So he combined it to Hushin. It's like, man, that's a killer name. Anyway, so in November, I called Chris and I said, "Hey man, because he still didn't have a way to, like, he didn't have any shirts made. He just had ideas." And so I was like, "Man, you should really get your company up and going where you could ship shirts and I could promote it through once I launch this thing." And he's like, "Well, yeah, great. Like I'm in the process of doing that. What's your channel going to be called?" I'm like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "Man, we could like co-brand it and we could call it like Hushin." I was like, "Well, what if we called it Hushin with Levere?" Because my family channel was Casey Levere. And I was like, it would have that recognition of Levere, but it would be also Hushin, like your brand. He's like, I'm like, "Do you care if I do that?" And he's like, "No, man, I'd love the idea." So that's when I started the channel in November of 2011. I called it Hushin with Levere.
Yeah,
I recognize that logo.
That was my very first shirt I ever sold. And it doesn't even say Hushin with Levere. It just says Casey Levere with an elk in it. Anyway,
so now the channel's official. Hushin with Levere is official in 2011. When was when, like, I know you have a pretty long history of YouTube as well. Like, when did you start diving into YouTube for consuming hunting related content?
Dude, as soon as I got myself a computer, all I did was consume shed hunting mostly, like right out of the gate, like shed hunting content anywhere, whatever I can look at, photos, chat forums, anything.
Yeah,
and I started
real quick, like back in 2011, the hunting forums were like big thing. You know, there's the Monster Muleys was a huge one. In the Pacific Northwest, there's one called iFish. There's a Coos Whitetail one that was really big. Those were like the thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny going back a little bit more. I got talked into like doing a multi-level marketing thing, and it was called Burn Lounge. And they were like a multi-level marketing where people can come to your specific website and download MP3s. So I went, someone invited me to the meeting, and the guy's got his pitch and he's saying, "Hey guys, this is the way of the future. You know, CDs are going down. Like everyone's going to buy MP3s because MP3 players were coming out. And I was like, yeah, dude, I agree. Like this guy's onto something. So I bought into the thing, like spent some money to like become a, you know, a business, and you get your own website. So it was burnlounge.com/burnloungekid. And so I decided, well, I'll go to RC Willey and finance myself a computer. So I got a big old brick computer tower and financed a computer. And once I did that, that's when I started surfing the web and getting on the chat forums like Monster Muleys. And my username forever was Burn Lounge Kid.
Burn Lounge Kid. That sounds so funny.
Yeah. So that's how I got started with getting on the internet in the first place, and starting to share my own stories and pictures was mainly through the monstermuleys.com chat forums.
Yep.
The hunting chat forums.
Which that one was interesting too, because it was all like a lot of the forums were state specific. So if you were looking at going on a hunt in Utah, you could dive into the Utah forum. There'd be a bunch of guys, typical local Utah folks. They would be on there pretty active, you know, or if you wanted to go hunt in Oregon or New Mexico, every state had its own little sub forum committee that typically had a fair amount of activity from locals. So it's kind of funny how that specific site really, really connected a lot of people back in the, 2009, 10, 11 days for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started filming hunts randomly. This is even before I ever hunted myself. I'd get on Monster Muleys and be like, hey guys, I love to film hunts. Does anyone have a good hunt they want filmed? And I connected with a few people on the chat forum to go film their hunts and then make them a movie or a video at the end of it all. But yeah, that's when YouTube came around. I mean, obviously, I can't remember exactly when I discovered the platform, but I would just say I was constantly looking for content. Yeah. And I started a YouTube channel just like kind of Casey did, to just like, comment and get on there. I started that in 2006, and there was like zero shed antler content. Nothing. So I started sharing some of my stuff way back when. I didn't understand the platform at all like Casey and his brother did, but I started just putting videos on there just to contribute. Like the way I see media within the hunting community is I consume nonstop, always have ever since I got a computer. And my way of giving back to the community was to share, to post, to write my stories and connect with others. So that's why I always love to like share content.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, things have changed so much in honestly a pretty short period of time, but the forums were giant. Hunting magazines were really big, and everybody strived to try to get an article published in a magazine with a story about their hunt, or they did a lot of sharing on the forums, where you could really do a hunt recap through photos and just a written word. And that had a high level of engagement for a lot of years. It's kind of interesting because those hunting forums are largely kind of what initially connected at least Casey and I out of the gate. There's another forum that was around, kind of a small one called Ridgeline Outdoors, and I had met a guy by the name of Cody Lujan, who's a mutual friend of ours, probably in like 2010, and I was really interested in starting to do my first non-resident hunt. I wanted to go chase elk somewhere outside of Oregon, and for whatever reason, New Mexico kind of was the one I was looking at. Cody was super knowledgeable, and he really helped me and encouraged me to put in for New Mexico. And lo and behold, I drew tag my first year in 2010, and went down there to the Gila and just had an incredible time. Chased around a bunch of bulls, never killed anything, but that really got me interested in participating in more forums and putting in for more tags, which, in a lot of cases, I'm still sitting on those points right now and, several years later. But the hunting forum is what eventually led to myself and Casey meeting in 2012 down in New Mexico on an elk hunt, of all things. It was the first time we met because of our buddy Cody Lujan. So Casey kind of did a similar thing. He was on the forums and looking for tags to draw and found Cody's name and asked a bunch of questions. And sure enough, he freaking drew a tag like the next year, right?
Well, I think it's important to say exactly how this works. Like I said, when we started this thing, like everything happens for a reason, right? So you had put in for a certain unit and drawn the unit in 2010, correct?
Yeah.
So once you drew that unit, you started researching it on these forums, and one guy's name kept popping up, New Mexico elk trout.
Yep.
And that's and you started DMing him, and he finally responded, and that was Cody Lujan.
Yeah.
And then he committed to taking you and kind of showing you the unit, correct?
Yeah, I basically flew down in July to Albuquerque. Never been there before. Never met the guy before. He picked me up at the airport, and away we went to elk scout. And I think we both secretly, we always joke around this. You did the same thing, but we secretly like dialed our wives and we're like, yeah, he's normal. We're good.
It's not gonna
Because
murder me.
we just didn't know. I mean, we talked on a form. That was it, and then verified, okay, he's got a Facebook account. He must be like somewhat normal. And that was kind of how it all got started. And I went down there. I was super lucky. I drew in 2010, and then I drew in, I think, 2011. And because I was out of some work, I went back there and helped some other friends fill some elk tags. And then I actually drew again in 2012 with my dad this time. So got super lucky. I haven't drawn a thing since in New Mexico, really, but out of the gate, it was a good run. And yeah, Cody was like the foundational piece between me and Casey meeting up for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly how. Go ahead.
Did you two communicate internet first, then meet in person, or meet in person at camp?
We
friends?
emailed. I had some, because I didn't get to go on the archery hunt, and this is so classic because I still have the email. You know how I roll. And dude, Casey is just terrible with emails. I'm like giving him all these waypoints. Like, dude, check out here. Go.
He had
here.
graphs.
I was buttoned up, and I could barely get Casey to reply to an email. So not much has changed from that regard.
Well, so just to stay along the timeline. So 2010, you met Cody. You hunted 2010, 2011 with him. And then 2012, I did the exact same thing. I started looking at other areas I could put into hunt. And I found this unit in New Mexico that looked like it was a pretty easy one to draw. And so I drew the archery tag in 2012. And I did the same exact things, except for I found him on Monster Muleys. I kept researching this certain unit, and his name kept popping up. So I would just DM him all the time. And finally, he was like, responded. And then he invited me to come down. I think it was in August. He's like, well, come down, fly down. I'll pick you up at the airport. I'll take you down, show you what I know of the unit, because I'm going to be bear hunting at the time. Went and hung out with him for 2 days, and then came back in September and did the hunt. And Cody came and helped me for a few days. And then he had mentioned, he said, hey, one of my buddies and his dad drew the rifle tag down here in October. You should really come back and film it. It'd be some good content. I'm like, yeah, I would love to. And then in the meantime, Cody put me and Brian together, and Brian started sending me all these emails. This is before I went down on the hunt, but he started sending me all these emails about waypoints and harvest statistics, I'm sure.
It's just data.
Lots of data.
Yeah. And so then in October, we just talked through email, me and Brian. In October, I flew down there. Cody picked me up, went to camp, and met Brian for the first time.
Yeah, so we met at elk camp first time, and here this guy comes strolling in from LA or whatever, and Cody's been telling me like, yeah, my buddy Casey films these hunts and has a YouTube channel and this and that, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. I mean, it'd be sweet to have like somebody film our hunt, but aside from that, I don't know nothing about YouTube really, because I was not really a consumer of YouTube back then until honestly until probably 2012 when I actually met Casey and figured out like what's this all about. But I'll never forget asking him in camp. Me and my friend Tony were there, and we're like, so walk us through like this YouTube thing. Like, how do you make a living on YouTube? And Casey, just without even hesitating, is like, so YouTube's like this website where you can like upload videos and share it. And we're just like, dude, we understand that part of it. How do you make a living off of it? And so it was pretty interesting to learn that somebody could make a living by putting up videos. I was so fascinated by that idea. And again, back then, there was no hunting YouTube channels to be heard of. It was television, the hunting forums, and magazines. That was it.
Yeah, so that would be the second year. So going back to 2011, November, I started the channel, agreed with Chris that I could use the name Hushin with Lavier, started the channel, uploaded my first video in December. And like I said, I ran out maybe like 3 or 4 videos that year. And then I was living in LA. I didn't have a lot of opportunity to go out and create more content of hunting and fishing. But what I realized is like anything, like bass fishing was big in California. So I'd get out and do some bass fishing with my buddy Ed. And then I'd do a lot of outdoor cooking videos because this is all in the off season. I'm in LA, not really having the opportunity to go film some good content. So I just started creating any content I could. And it was still maybe like 2 or 3 videos a month at most. So 2012, I kind of did the same thing I did in 2011. I flew out to Utah and did probably 5 or 6 different hunts. One of those being Brian and his dad. I filmed those two, both killing elk. And then went back to LA and sitting on all this content.
So in 2012 now, you are doing what?
2012, I was probably full-time working with another production company. We were making DVDs, had a website, sold t-shirts, had the chat forum going. You know, it was still guiding hunts here and there in the fall. But at that time, I was full-time, just kind of making DVDs, creating content. And we were utilizing the YouTube platform at that point as like teaser, like, hey, here's some like video by our DVD. Like, here's some like short clips, come to our website and use our chat forum, you know? So I always understood that eyeballs were valuable in some way. I didn't understand that you can monetize the YouTube channel at that point, but we would put in content on there to try to direct traffic to our website, you know?
So now, like, you get through October, it's we're in 2013 now, we've transitioned into a new year, and the Hunt Expo, which we are such huge fans of these days, was has like a cool story behind it. But so February of 2013, Casey, you go to the Hunt Expo, and I believe you met Eric at his booth, correct?
Yeah. So going back to things happen for a reason, I had followed the company Eric was working for, they were big in Utah. And even before I started doing YouTube, they had an online forum that I would follow frequently. They'd sold DVDs, which I would purchase. And so once I started doing YouTube, you know, they were the first people that came to mind. And I never thought of anybody, and we still don't today, as being competitors. We've always looked at it as the more people creating outdoor content on this site is probably better for everyone that is doing it, because it's bringing more eyeballs in. So I always had these guys in the back of my head after I started. And I was like, man, I really want to talk to those guys. And so I flew from LA to Utah to go to the Hunt Expo for like 2 or 3 days. And the reason being I did that is I was trying to gather sponsors in the hunting world. And I'd posted something on my Casey Levere Facebook page of a bull that I filmed through a Vortex scope. And so like it got like, and it was blatantly honest. I was trying to get some recognition. I was like, here's a bull I filmed through with my Vortex scope. Go tell Vortex that they should work with me or something dumb like that. And it got like, I don't know, like 250 like replies. And so finally, like somebody reached out to me and they're like, well, you can be at the Hunt Expo. I'm like, I can be. And they're like, all right, I want you to go meet with this guy named Mark Boardman. And so here's his number. Call him when you get there. So I was going to meet with Mark Boardman thinking, man, I might just get a sponsorship deal from Vortex. And I probably had 25, 30 videos up on the Hushin with Levere channel at the time. So I remember like I met up with my dad and we were driving to the expo and called this Mark Boardman guy. I'm like, hey man, so-and-so gave me your number, said I need to come talk to you. But he's like, oh yeah, they mentioned that. Come see me at the booth. So I went in there like thinking, you know, this was gonna be easy peasy. And I remember walking in there and meeting him and introducing myself. And he's like, all right, so like, what are you thinking? Like, what's your ideas? Like, how do you want to work together? I'm like, just give me some optics, man. I'm going to use them on my channel. And it didn't go so well. He was just like, all right, cool. Everyone has the same.
He's platform. Like, oh yeah, sweet. A YouTube channel for hunting. Yeah.
A YouTube channel. Yeah.
It's 2013, bro. It's TV.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, we'll talk later. And I kind of walked away with my tail between my legs. And I was like, man, I suck at this stuff. I'm no good at like presenting myself to somebody in hopes to get some kind of monetary compensation. Anyway, so I kind of walked away feeling a little defeated. And then I remember I was like, Time's Up has a booth here. I'm going to go talk to those guys. And I say things happen for a reason because I went into that booth and there was how many partners in that group, in that business, Eric?
There was 5.
5?
Yeah.
So like I knew all 5 of them or recognized all 5 of them, but Eric was definitely, in my opinion, kind of the face of it. Like he was the one that, you know, I thought of when I thought of that company. So I walk in and they had a giant booth back then. I'm like, man, these guys are crushing. I always thought it was cool what they were doing because it was a younger group of dudes doing something really cool in the outdoor industry, which I was passionate about. And I'd followed these guys for 2 or 3 years. So I go walking in this giant booth, a little intimidated because I was kind of fangirling. Been following these guys for a few years. I go walking in and just so happens that it's Eric Chesser right there. No one's around him. He's not signing autographs or taking pictures. And I just walked up to him and I'm like, hey man, introduce myself. And I pitched him the idea of what I've been trying to do on YouTube, and I thought they could do it too. And immediately, like, light went off in Eric's face, and I just still remember him just getting so excited, being like, "Dude, I've been trying to tell these guys, my partners, that we need to do digital stuff. Like, DVDs are dying, magazines are dying. Like, we need to do digital, and they're not all for it. Like, but I want to do it. Like, can we talk more?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm an open book. Here's my number." We exchanged numbers, and so I walked out of there, with no sponsorship deal, but I just met Eric Chester, and so that was 2013 in February.
Yeah. So my angle, just work in the booth, and like Casey said, the booth was rocking. I mean, the company was growing, it was getting a lot of traction, and we were selling a lot of merchandise. We at that point selling DVDs and selling ad space in the beginning of the DVDs, 30-second spots, more like a TV type of commercial. And yeah, Casey comes up to me, and I swear were you with your dad or father-in-law?
I think maybe it was my father-in-law. Yeah,
I think it was your father-in-law. And he's like, "Hey man, yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Casey, man." So he's like, "I make a living off of YouTube, and I think you guys have awesome content. I think you guys would do really well. I'd love to help you guys get started on YouTube." And like Casey said, it was no joke. Being like light bulb, like, you make a living on YouTube. Again, like B-Mac said, like help me understand that. So being busy with the commotion of the Hunt Expo, we just kind of split ways. And I remember he had a, giant Facebook page, giant YouTube. I'm just like, who is this guy? Starting to watch the videos, saw your video, B-Mac, and was like, man, this guy, he knows what's up. Like, he's making awesome videos. I love the way the things were cut. And for a year straight, I would DM him on Facebook with very little response. So a lot of back and forth, but in the meantime, I was doing my research, man. Like, I was diving deep with, YouTube tutorials. How do people make money on YouTube? How does digital content work? Blah, 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 blah. How do you monetize your channel? So I started to learn and learn and learn. And it wasn't until the next year in February, which I don't know what you guys had been doing that whole year.
Yeah. So in 2013, honestly, right after I met Casey and went on the hunt, got the videos posted, we remained in touch and friends. And, me, my passion, I love the business side of it. I love the sales and marketing and branding. And I was immediately like, dude, you've got to get some sponsors. Like, this is gold. Like, you're the only hunting channel really to speak of. There's maybe one other one out there. This is the future of hunting, but yet none of these companies they don't get it, because the outdoor industry as a whole is historically kind of behind the curve on mainstream stuff. So I immediately started side hustling stuff for Casey, dude, send me a list of the companies you're interested in. And then I was trying to get him either free product or obviously money would be great, but pretty premature, but I was reaching out to companies on his behalf. I built him a marketing media kit that I was sending out to people. And dude, we were just hustling, trying to get him something with the idea that I just enjoy that to begin with. And I just was passionate that channel had some value early on that maybe a lot of people weren't aware of yet or that didn't see. So throughout 2012, 2013, I'm just kind of still got my full-time job. I'm back to work and I'm just trying to get him some deals. And it's funny because I still have some of those old ones and it's really hilarious to look back on. But that fall, Logan was done with high school and then he joined you for the whole fall of 13. Because I hooked up with Casey in 13. He drew another elk tag, and Logan was with us on that hunt. My first time meeting Logie Berry's, 17, 18 years old, and he came out to film that hunt. And I think he kind of pretty much palled around with you for the whole season, right?
Yeah, I took him from September until the end of October. He was on my hip filming everything. And Logan, he's always had a great eye. He had a channel. He was filming stuff, and that was the year my content was really abysmal the first 2 years at best. I don't even watch that content. It's so cringeworthy. And then Logan stepped in 2013 and it was the first time I was super overly proud of what we were creating.
Yeah.
Because he was just really good at editing and filming and he was capturing the shots and I wasn't trying to do it by myself. And so that was the year I really felt like it kind of took a little step up. But I was going to ask you, was that 13 you shot the Fireball?
Yeah. So I shot him in that fall. 13, which again, going back to kind of like where I was, as soon as we left, parted ways, I started doing my research, following Casey's channel, his wife, like that whole circle of you guys and Shay. I started to like study not only you guys, but then I'd be like, okay, I'd find a prank channel and I'd study. Yeah. So for a year straight, I was analyzing and seeing the growth of these channels just blowing up. And I was just blown away. And then we were in touch through the fall, hit and miss kind of. And that's when I filmed and killed the fireball in the fall of 13. And that's when I started noticing, you know, soon after fall, when
dude, Casey sent me a text. He's like, you cannot share this with anybody, but dude, check out this bull my buddy Eric killed. And
no way.
Like, holy crap.
Well, that's where I get a little confused because we met at the expo in 13. And then we were kind of, like you said, you were hitting me up and I wasn't responding or whatever, but we talked a few times. And wasn't it that spring when I flew home to Utah to go do a turkey hunt?
Yeah. So I was watching your channel, and that's when the videos were starting to come out. And the one that really stuck out to me when Logan started filming your hunts was the mountain goat hunt. And again, just from being a viewer of the case of the Hushin with Levere, I was like, dude, this guy gets it. Like, he makes great content. There's a story. Logan's eyeballs and shots like totally added to your films. And I'm like, this guy is doing it. Just kind of how you saw Time's Up and us, like they're doing it. And I'm like, no, this guy's doing it. And because I completely enjoyed your videos. And then it was that next February. So I killed the bull, had the bull at the expo in February, and you came up to me again. Hey man, do you remember me? And I'm like, yes. Like, again, after a year of studying you, watching your family, watching your channel grow, I was like, yes, I'm so ready. Like, I would love to have a chance to sit down with you. And you're like, yeah, I'm coming back to turkey hunt, and I'd love to sit down with you and go through the YouTube back end, which I didn't understand at that time. And
that's crazy. Yeah.
That's when it went down. We had a meeting in my bedroom.
Dude, I think I was
ranch house.
I think I was at that hunt expo with you, Casey, because I remember that we went to the sheep show, and then we went to the hunt expo. And again, I'm just trying to peddle sponsors, but I remember being in Salt Lake for my first time, and it had snowed and stuff. And I don't recall vividly like meeting Eric. I do remember seeing the fireball or whatever, but that again is just another ironic piece of the story and the timing of it all.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's when you came back and we sat down in that little ranch house, the same one I've rented for years, and you taught me, you know, how to monetize a channel, connect it to your bank account. And that's where we came up with, you're like, dude, this is all about consistent content. I found that, you know, if you just have a schedule and stick to it, you can gain subscribers. And if you just tell them, hey, every Tuesday you're going to have a video, you're like, I don't know, you should call it like Time's Up Tuesday.
That's right.
And that's when Time's Up Tuesday episodes started. And I was uploading more of a vlog style video that I thought people would enjoy, because at that time I became the same as most people first come into like a vlog style video. They're like, I don't understand it. Why would anybody watch this? As I started to watch Casey's personal channel, I'm now glued to the screen. So I understood it, because I can understand when people are like, hey, how does someone watch like a vlog? Well, if you watch it enough, it's just like a TV show, man. It sucks you in. You're just invested in that person or that story. So that's what I started doing with Time's Up Tuesday. And at that point, we had never shared the fireball video anywhere. I was just sitting on it.
So now we're in 2014, right? And you guys obviously kind of connected. Time's Up, your stuff, mm-hmm. Eric is starting to, you know, you guys are maybe thinking about doing a little bit more stuff digitally. And then I know I think it was around August, my wife and I got transferred for her job to Salt Lake City, of all places, which is crazy.
Again, some things all happen for a reason.
It was between Houston, Texas, and Salt Lake City, and we ended up in Salt Lake, and took a leap of faith. We didn't know anybody here, and I know when I moved down, Casey was like, "Yeah, I'll have to introduce you to my buddy Eric. You know, he lives in Salt Lake, and you guys will have to get together and, you know, try to at least have somebody that you know." And so we moved down in August, and then I'm pretty sure that's when you guys kind of went on that first elk hunt together that following September, right?
Yep.
Oh, so it was, yeah, that's right. It was that September.
Beyonce.
Yep. I invited Eric out to come hunt elk with me in Idaho, and he just ran the camera for a few days. And that's when I killed the bull I call Beyonce. I don't even remember why. And so Eric came out, and that's kind of that was the first hunt me and you did.
Yep.
Yeah.
So kind of going back a little, as I studied this digital content idea, I really caught on and understood the value of collaboration. And that's where I could say, hey, I'm hunting with Casey, go follow him. Casey could go on his channel, said, hey, I'm hunting with Eric from Tines Up. You can go over there and subscribe. So I was like, dude, we need to do some hunts together. And then he invited me to film his Idaho archery elk hunt.
Yep.
Which then led to him killing that bull Beyonce.
And then you guys went deer hunting, I think later in October, November, right?
Yep. To kind of return the favor, I thought,
Yeah.
well, I should take you on a hunt. And none of my partners at the time were going to go on that hunt because they had drawn some late season elk tags. So I was like, we should go on this Colorado deer hunt. We could draw a tag, and we drew out together. And not a lot of film was made just because it was a struggle. Like we struggled big time. But we did film the hunt a little bit. And and then I met you.
Yeah, November 14.
That's our introduction was Casey. Hey man, so my buddy, he had kind of mentioned you before. He's like, my buddy lives right out of Salt Lake. You guys should connect on that Utah extended archery hunt. I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of my favorite. Where does he live? And he sends me the address, and I'm like, boom.
Yeah.
He lives in this
spot.
Private little community right on the mountain where everybody wants to hunt. And I grew up hunting and hiking, really just right out of Salt Lake.
But you really couldn't, it was tough to get in there unless you had access through that private community, right?
You're either walking for miles or you're walking literally out Brian's back door, which we did.
Yeah, I did.
The first time we hunt, I just show up in the dark.
Yeah, it was pretty. We had no idea. We just needed a house. It was like hey, you're moving to Salt Lake, and we put our house on the market in Portland. Away you go. My wife showed up in June. I didn't show up until August, and so we had rented a house in this community, and lo and behold, it's a pretty good spot.
It's a dang good spot. Yeah. So we went on a hunt together, and we just hunted archery deer. Yeah.
So
that's where me and BMAC.
So pretty much throughout, kind of close of 2014, you guys had started hunting together a little bit. Obviously, there's certainly more relationship, friendship developing. And then I think, Eric, you kind of changed what you were doing a little bit towards the end of 2014 and slid in back to the fitness gym world. If I remember correctly, that's what you were doing when you and I met.
Yeah. So I'd kind of split ways with my previous partners, and I was working at the gym. That's my second, that's another passion and love I have. And I always did well in that atmosphere and environment. It was a sales job, signing up people for memberships, which I enjoyed. But again, man, I went back to a full-time job, and I was like, schedule.
That's right. Recall
casual.
Dude, you were impossible to take out hunting. We could never do anything because your hours were I got to work Saturday or whatever. And it was a tough schedule. If I remember that.
And just like every job I'd had previously, which is another topic we should do, our old jobs, my mind just racing, how do I get back? How do I, there's, it's just burning inside of me. I need to be hunting. I need to be making content. And, me and Casey were always kind of yeah, we could work together. What could we do? Brainstorming.
Which, that pretty much leads us into the Hunt Expo again. So now we're Hunt Expo 2015.
Well, take a step back.
Yeah,
14 is really when it wasn't it December? You sent me that text, Eric?
So it was pretty close to the time. So January.
It might have been
January.
December, January. So Eric,
which is where I was going with it. Yeah, the movie premiere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eric just sent me this text, and this is where things really change. He sent me this text because he had been sitting on his Fireball video for over a year. And I had shot that bull in September and had done nothing with the content.
Never released it. Yep.
And Eric was at the gym working out, and he sent me a text. He said, hey, man, we used to do this thing where we do a movie premiere the night before the expo. I know you're sitting on the Beyonce video, and I have the Fireball video. What do you think about doing a movie premiere?
Mm-hmm.
I just remember texting back. I didn't even know what a movie premiere was. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, no hesitation. I mean, like Casey said, I was at the gym after my shift, sitting on the bench. Again, my brain is just constantly thinking. And I had always hoped and planned to share the Fireball video through a movie premiere. And I just thought to myself, like, why don't I just do it? Like, what's stopping me? And so I sent Casey that text, hey, would you want to have a movie premiere? And it was, hell yeah, all caps, like 5 exclamation marks. Dude, I remember just quitting the workout, going downstairs, driving home, and called him right on the phone. And it was instantly like, I was broke as a joke. Casey's like, yeah, I'll pay to rent the theater, whatever we have to do. And I'm like, hey, is Wednesday night still available? Oh yeah. So we planned the movie premiere to be around the launch of the Fireball, the launch of Casey's Idaho archery elk hunt, and a pronghorn hunt with your son, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just like, that was our plan. We instantly started, like, I think Casey built some graphics. Somebody built some like little postcard looking graphics that were cool to me at the time. I was like, yeah, this is like edited looking stuff. This is
it's a
Photoshop
split
stuff.
screen of the Fireball on the top, Casey's bowl on the bottom. And it said like, I have it saved somewhere, but it says like movie premiere or whatever. And that was like one of the things you guys used to post on your social media platforms or whatnot.
Yep. Yeah. And we just leveraged both our platforms and audience, and a lot of people that had known I had shot the bull, knew I had the video, but we had never said anything about sharing it. So
how did we go about selling tickets? I forget all the details because
was it
going back to November, I had hired Casey and Jordan from Mountain Ops, who I had met that previous. We forgot about SHOT Show 2013.
Yeah, that's right.
Dude,
Eric called me up and said, "Hey, I'm going to SHOT Show.
Looking for sponsors.
We could share
sell magazine ads."
Yeah, you were looking to sell magazine ads. I was looking to get sponsors.
Yeah.
He's like, we could share a room. So I was like, yeah, I'll meet you in Vegas. I flew to Vegas, met Eric. We went into these. It was very weird. What's that?
I was just saying, when you say you hired Casey and Jordan from Mountain Ops, it was not Mountain Ops then. They were running like a consulting company.
No,
right?
they were Zulu. Yeah, they were like
Zulu
6 or something. Yeah. I can't remember. So I'd met, anyway, we go to SHOT Show and we'd go into these. Eric had all these meetings already set up. And so like just from prior sponsors he'd worked with or people he knew. So it'd be me and Eric going into this meeting, and Eric could give him this pitch about buying a magazine spot. And then they'd be like, yeah, sounds good. We'll get back to you. And then Eric would be like, all right, Casey, give him your pitch. So we're coming at like two totally different realms, right? Like so Eric trying to sell magazines, me trying to sell like them on YouTube. And they're like, wait, you're telling me I need to buy magazines, but yet YouTube's the future. Like, how's this working out?
And it's so funny because each meeting I'd give my pitch, which wasn't that great, and you'd give yours. And I'm like, dude, his pitch is way better. I believe in the YouTube way stronger than this magazine ad. And I'm just like, he's going to come out with all the deals. But we shared a room in like the cheapest hotel. We never got a deal. Like, we sat down with Outdoor Edge. We did make some, like, I made some good connections, like Stealthcam, like Ben, like that's some things that will and some of our current partners.
Yeah, for sure.
And then our relationship with Casey Harbison, which turned into Mountain Ops, like, dude, again, crazy story. Could be a whole nother like Zoom podcast.
So we'll just fast. Sorry for going back, but I thought that was a pivotal.
But that's solid. So you guys had a successful movie night, like, right? It was crushed.
Well, yeah. So we sold. So I had hired those guys to create a website, and I was selling shirts. And remember when this launched? It launched. So we went to Colorado 2014 November to hunt. First day of the hunt, my store was supposed to launch, and I would sell these like 5 different shirts, and I think it was just shirts at the time. And I was going to sell these shirts, and and I remember I was getting all these texts like, "Hey man, I bought a shirt yesterday, but then I just got through PayPal and I just got refunded today." And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, somehow we got mixed up between me and Casey. And he put my wrong PayPal account in. Remember, like, we were on the mountain. I'm like, I got to go get
number.
Yeah, I'm like, I got to go get this figured out. So I drove back to the hotel. Eric took my truck, went and hunted, and somehow we got the wrong PayPal account on there. Anyways, moving forward, I think we sold tickets through that website at that.
Yeah, I believe so. And then it was before the premiere that we sat down with BMAC at dinner.
It was after.
So it was after.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, because I was out of town. After. I wasn't able to go to the premiere because I had work engagement that I had to be at, so I missed that whole premiere, unfortunately. And then we sat down after.
I thought it was before, though. I thought it was like January, because I remember you were living in that house and we were editing videos, and then we went and met Brian for dinner.
I'm pretty sure it happened right after the premiere, after you guys were like, man, that went well.
Yeah, it doesn't matter either way.
Yeah, we all did dinner one night.
The first year we did the premiere, though, we did it a little differently. It was only 200 seats at a theater.
Yeah, 250.
So we sold, and in my head when Eric like brought the idea up of this movie, I'm like, how are we going to sell a movie theater out? It was beyond me. Like, but we started selling tickets and was crushing. And so we were able to sell out 2 different times, right? We did a 7 in one theater and then an 8 in another theater. With
Go over to the other theater and open it up.
Yeah. So we went and opened up the one theater at 7. The movie started rolling. We ran over to at 8 and opened the next theater up. And then we ran back and closed the show down in the first theater and came back and it crushed. And I was just blown away. I'm like, man, how cool is this? Like, and it probably didn't strike me. I don't think it ever struck me like bring Eric on. Like, I was just like, we could work in this capacity, like helping each other out. So move forward. So it was after the expo. We did the expo. It was the first year Mountain Ops had a booth. It was a 10 by 10, I believe. Or
20 by 20.
It had a truck.
That's right.
It had the truck for $1 giveaway. We put a movie big screen TV in the back of the truck, and we played the Fireball video and just on loop played the movie premiere.
Yeah.
And me and Eric didn't have shirts or hats there. We were just there all day, just talking to people. People would come up and recognize us. And we'd shake their hand, talk to them. So moving forward, it was right after that we had our dinner.
So we all went out to dinner in Salt Lake City one night, right? Had a burger. Casey must have been in town for something or another, probably trying to figure out the website, more than likely. And I remember it vividly. You guys were both talking about like how cool everything was, how successful it was, and kind of still like, man, what could we do? How can we make this something better? And to me, it was super obvious. I just thought, well, Casey's got this YouTube channel that's, it's up and running. It's doing pretty well right now, but he also has a full-time other channel and doesn't have a ton of time. And then, Eric's got the drive, the passion, like the ability to put up content on a consistent basis, but doesn't really have like an established channel yet. He's got a really good following, particularly in Utah from, your previous company, the Chad, and then obviously the Fireball. Got a ton of people interested in that video. That movie sold out. I was like, man, why don't you guys just work together? Y'all need what each other have, like it seems like it would make a ton of sense. Eric could come on to the Hush channel and immediately start producing content on a consistent basis. And, Casey would have somebody as a partner to help kind of grow more or less a hobby at the time. I mean, it wasn't really anything necessarily like making money. It was just this cool idea of hunting videos on this channel. And it was, super vivid to me. And it didn't take you guys long to be like, okay, that's not
no, like we talked before, like when I introduced myself to Eric, it was like same thing. Like Brian like presented that idea, and I was just like, that's lights going off. Like, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. Because since I started my personal channel in 2011 and moved my family to LA till 2014, like it took off and was doing really well. So I couldn't commit to just doing Hush because this other channel was doing really well, and it was paying the bills. Finally, I was making good money, and I could see the future of it. And then Brian just presented in a way like Eric has time to make the videos, create the content, run the store. He knows how to do that. And then it just like both of us are like, yeah, you want to do that? And Eric's like,
I remember. Oh, keep going if you have more.
But I was a little nervous because I was like, man, I don't want to let this guy down. He has a job and stuff. Like, I don't want to bring him onto this thing and like it can't like, sustain itself and like pay him a wage. Because I was, when I was running Hush, I wasn't making a ton of money. I was making a little bit of money, which was great side money. We were selling some shirts and stuff and getting some AdSense from YouTube. And my Casey Levere channel was crushing. So I was in my head, I was like, man, I just don't really want to let this guy down. But if he can create the content, I know the formula works. Like create consistent content, which I was never able to do on Hush because I was in LA and I couldn't create good, consistent content. And I was like, man, he lives in Utah. He's always out shed hunting, doing whatever. He could do it. So it kind of reassured me. I was like, yeah, like let's do this thing.
Yeah, I remember at dinner, Casey's to my left, B-Max across the table. And we had brainstormed. Remember, we were thinking like we could make a separate channel together and we could we were both really passionate about like helping others. And I remember one of the ideas we had was let's build a channel where we take less fortunate people hunting, whether that's like a single mom that has a son that just like doesn't know where to start. We could take the kid hunting. And I remember just thinking like, we can have this cool channel with cool videos and experience. And that was just kind of one brainstorm. And it was Brian that was like, dude, Casey's got what you need. Eric's got what you need. Why don't you guys just do Hush together? And you and I look at each other and you're like, why didn't, well, I'm like, yeah, I thought about that. You're like, I thought about that too, but why didn't you say anything? I'm like, this is your business. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know. How do I just come on to the channel?
Yeah.
And there was, but we were on board and we definitely were all like, yeah, let's do it. And there's one thing I remember that you told me, and I would love to tell Shay, like how much it meant to me in person, because your brother Shay, who was, you know, total YouTube expert, you told me, you're like, yeah, I asked my brother, like, what do you think about me bringing like this Eric onto Hush? And he was like, not about it. But when he went to the movie premiere, he's like, dude, you guys got to work together. Like that,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I remember like how much, when you shared that, I was like, that means a lot, because Shay is a total expert at the YouTube platform. But yeah, then Brian brought it together. We started working together, and I left my job at the gym to be a salary that would be half from Hush, which was basically from you, and then half from Mountain Ops. And I worked in the warehouse of Mountain Ops, meanwhile building content and building out our store for Hush and trying to like add products.
Yeah. So you're splitting your time between Mountain Ops and Hush. Yeah. So you were doing Hush half the time and Mountain Ops half the time, but working in their warehouse because they were shipping all the Hush gear at the time.
Yep.
And how long did you do that?
Man, I feel like I can't remember how long.
I was looking back, and I think our the official like Fireball true like new Hush designs came out in like May of 2015. So it probably was a couple months of, you know, kind of splitting time between Mountain Ops.
Was it? I thought we launched the Fireball as like a design at the expo. Or was that?
We had some stuff show up in the spring.
Yeah, I think it was. So we're talking 2015 still, and so you came on. Was it like February? It was like,
well, we met in March. We had that dinner in March, so Eric was started in, gosh, probably a week later. I mean, dude, it happened fast. I feel.
Oh yeah, I was all. When opportunities like this come, I've never been afraid to quit a job. I've always just believed in like this vision, you know, that why can't we do that? Why can't we be those people? Why can't we make the coolest looking shirts? Why can't we have the YouTube channel? You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, peace to my job. And even my boss, love him to death, Dan. I've seen him a few times since. He's just like, no, dude, you need to do that. You need to go chase that dream. Like you've got it. You're more valuable than just like working at a gym.
Yeah.
So that cool.
Like throughout that spring and summer, you were kind of like, you know, introducing yourself to the Hush channel and getting acclimated, like who's the new guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's a little bit of you know,
I remember the comments and
time to get used to that, because Casey had this channel for a lot of years. It was just kind of him and maybe some guests, and now all of a sudden Eric's here vlogging on this channel. Like, what the heck's that all about? But I think that was kind of through the spring and summer months that you were really getting acclimated to being a true like partner of Casey's.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. So the summer of 2014, before any of this happened, is actually when I moved my family back to Utah. So I was back in Utah at the time. No, we moved back to Idaho.
Yep.
So 2014, August 2014 or July 2014, we moved from LA back to Idaho. 2015 comes around, bring Eric on, and we were able to work together. I remember the first video I think we did together really was a spring turkey hunt.
Oh, right? Yeah, because it was so funny, because it was such an experiment that we went on that turkey hunt. And at that time, I had, you know, been watching YouTube and learning about the vlog. And we were just like, we need to try just to like put up a vlog. And so we did kill a turkey. So we made a turkey video. But before that, we just launched I wouldn't say like your channel always had vlog style stuff, but it was like our first vlog together. And it was just like the nonsense of like turkey camp. I remember an aunt was like taking off with a piece of your beef jerky, and your laugh, that freaking trademark laugh you have. And people were like, more of this, the comments, you know, like more vlogs.
Well, I think the title of the video, I just looked at it yesterday, was Catching Giant Snakes. You remember that? You were driving down the road and you're like, stop, giant snake. And so I videoed Eric I hate snakes, and so I was introduced to Eric that he doesn't mind snakes. So we caught this giant snake. Anyway, yeah. So we were turkey hunting for like 2 or 3 days. We made
Yep.
a turkey hunting video, a vlog, and then remember we were doing the Camp Chef cooking videos.
Oh yeah, we made like deer burgers.
Yeah, we made like 2 or 3 different recipe videos, and I remember Eric was like sitting there, and it was like his turn to do a video. I think it was the world's best burger, right?
The world's like best bacon burger or something.
And you're sitting there, and we're like getting everything, like the camera lined up, and Eric's like, I never thought in all my wildest dreams I'd be making cooking videos on YouTube.
Yeah. Yep. And at that point, you had that on your channel. It was really a staple of the channel was your wild game cooking. So I was like, I'm going to make a video on how to cook burgers. And I was like, well, we're going to put bacon in it, green peppers, and we just winging it out on the mountain. And that, like, both those videos got so many views.
Oh yeah.
We were just looking at that the other day, kind of reflecting back. Yeah, those videos did super good. I think, didn't we do like a Camp Chef trip too? Like where we went and fished or something? And that was
At some point. Yeah,
that was right in that
on.
springtime.
That was so
early summer, I think, as well.
I had given Eric a percentage of the company for coming on, and Brian had always, like, since meeting him in elk camp, had been helping us try to get sponsors, right? He would reach out to people, try to get us products, get us money, get us something.
Yeah, we came together at that trip in
spring, and I think it was May, or when's?
Yeah, it was May. I think it was May. Yeah, we started like kind of again laying out like, okay, what companies, Eric, have you worked with in the past that could potentially be a good partner to start talking to? How about you, Casey? And we kind of came up with a game plan because, again, at this point in time, like I'm still working full time in corporate America. I just enjoy this side little business game, and now there's more incentive to try to raise money to help pay Eric's salary as he starts to transition into full time. And, Casey is still doing his own YouTube channel full time. So we started just putting together a bunch of lists. I think we filmed some more cooking videos, did some like fly fishing stuff. And then really just kind of try to, well, I wouldn't say it was a business plan, but just try to, how can we like make this a reality beyond more than just a hobby? The website was kind of just getting going, so there's like that merchandise component of it. We had the Hush with the fish antler logos on that trip. I remember some new hats that we kind of just came out with, and it was all still very, very new. But that was another piece that I just recall very vividly, sitting in one of those little cabins on that trip, talking about what could be with some of these companies.
Yeah, so that was springtime 2015, and then moving into the fall.
Well, in the summertime, we ran up to Bozeman. If you guys remember that trip, we went.
Well, that's right.
Uncle Randy Newberg. If you guys follow Uncle Randy, he's a good friend of ours, and he was inquiring about YouTube back in 2015. He'd been on TV for a lot of years and was very, very intrigued by the idea of digital. So we actually drove up to his house, sat with him in the Randy room, kind of ran him through what Casey has known for many years, what Eric was starting to really figure out now, being a partner with Hush, and helped him set up his YouTube channel. Same thing, here's how, the channel is, let's get it logged to your bank account. And that was like his first moment, I think, of putting that plan together for him to eventually go digital away from TV. That was it.
Yeah. And he was like us, like had the vision. And I just remember even Randy being like, guys, you are light years ahead of the hunting industry.
Yeah.
Because he was in TV. He understood how the network worked. And he was coming to us like, you guys are so far ahead. It's not even funny, but I want to learn. Can you help me, teach me? And we just kind of like Casey said, he's always been an open book. Nobody's been seen as competition. We're always willing to help. So both of us, all of us together, just kind of showed what we've learned and shared and what we thought we understood about building a loyal audience.
Yeah.
I vividly remember, I don't know if you had a channel yet or you set it up, but I remember Eric, sitting at his computer and just being like, watch, this is like what we know. And you just kind of walked him through the steps, and you could just see like the light bulb go off in his head. Like, okay, I could probably do this. Or my son, who's a lot more inclined digitally, could do this. And then
he ran with that idea for sure. And then we went from there to go visit with the Steve Ranella and the Meat Eater crew. And we actually did a podcast in one of their producers' basements. I think it's like podcast number 15 of the Meat Eater crew, which is crazy to think about how much those guys have grown over the years. But that was just another cool topic. And it's funny because I think some of the conversation centered around like filming styles between YouTube and like television, super sophisticated, never break the, you know, the fourth wall of the camera person versus vlogging. And it's also crazy to see, you know, how the meat eaters transition over the years, although they still have a very well produced program that goes up on, you know, I think Netflix now. They also do a ton of just organic kind of digital stuff, whether it be through their Instagram or like YouTube channels, doing great too. So that was a crazy little summer where, you know, we had these encounters with people that we had a ton of respect for, but they were also kind of interested a little bit in this whole new YouTube thing that is still pretty new at this point in time of like July 2015. And that really like takes us into the first ever Hushlife movie and 21 days of being on the road.
Oh yeah. That was such a fun project.
We convinced Eric he needed to put in for New Mexico for elk. He drew the same tag that me and Brian had drawn where we had met first year. So he has this killer elk tag, which was the second archery tag, which starts like September 15th. And then I'm like, yeah, we're going to go down there. Brian had acquired an antelope tag. So the plan was Eric and Brian were going to fly down to New Mexico, go antelope hunting. I was going to go pick up the jumping jack trailer from Eric's house and drive down to the elk spot and scout for 3 days and then meet up with you guys because Brian had to go home to go back to corporate America. And me, because in the meantime, I had purchased the first archery tag in New Mexico. So my hunt started September 1st through like the 13th, and then Eric started like the 14th. So driving down there, Brian calls. He's like, hey, you want an antelope tag? I can get you another one. Instead of going down to southern New Mexico to go set up elk camp, I made a left turn and went to northern New Mexico, met up with these guys, filmed 2 antelope hunts, drove down, got Eric. Brian got on a plane, left. Me and Eric drove down to elk camp. Like second day of the hunt, we're filming everything. Eric's like, hey man, you think we could just use this whole trip as the movie premiere? I'm like, well, yeah, probably. He's like, we should just like document it like day to day and just kind of do like a documentary of a New Mexico antelope elk hunt. I'm like, killer idea. And so that's what we did. We hunted like my whole hunt. I shot a bull the second to last day. And then opening day, Eric shot his elk. And so we drove home, but that was it was Hushlife, the movie, right?
Yeah, Hushlife, the movie premiere, which, we had filmed the antelope hunts, and everything was kind of filmed up into the point of pitching the idea of this all being like a movie. We were filming like segments. I'd say antelope hunt, cooking, wild, antelope backstraps was going to be its own video. And then in the jumping jack, sitting there brainstorming, like, I don't know if anybody has ever done like, because our movie premiere was, you know, Fireball, start, finish, Casey's hunt, start, finish, Casey's antelope hunt, start, finish before, which was great. Like there's nothing wrong with that platform, but I just remember thinking, how cool would it be to do like an hour-and-a-half seamless movie of this whole 2-week journey?
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah, that would be way cool. And it's so cool because even the way we edit them as we were doing them as like segments or like separate videos, we were able to tie in each thing so seamlessly and like create such a cool storyline. Like that's still one of my favorite videos we've ever made. Like having it be seamless to me, I thought was like so cool. It's just like a 2-week journey. Like I really felt like we made one of the, I don't know, cause I haven't looked at everything. I was just like, I think we made the first hunting movie ever. That's how I felt. You know, it's not segment to segment. It's just like, we made a movie.
Yeah.
Like we made a freaking hunting movie. No one has done that. And people still comment on that video. One of the best ones is from like either non-hunters that found it that are like, wow, I've never really understood how much work goes into hunting. Or 2, people like, hey, when I come across family members or friends that don't hunt, I tell them to watch that movie because that movie represents hunting perfectly to a lot of people.
Yeah, because we just, you know, we've always been committed to showing how it was, but we showed like, that was like eye-opening because we showed everything. Dude. And the reason I ever started doing cooking on the channel was because it was content, and I've always been passionate about cooking. But I brought a lot of non-hunters over from the Casey Levere channel to the Hushin with Levere channel. So I really wanted to tell the story of why we hunt, and that was to have food for the family to eat. And so on that, like you're saying, that movie represents everything. It was the struggles of hunting. It was the highs, the lows. It was the cooking of the wild game, the purpose behind it. It was everything encapsulated into why hunters go out and hunt. And like you said, it's one of my favorite things we've ever done as well.
The pine nuts, dude, that pine nuts thing still gets people talking about that even today. Like at the expo, they'll come and make that. That was such a cool video, and that sequence where you guys actually had to get the pine nuts out of the pine cones or whatever and use them to cook.
That's the worst.
Our hands were a mess, but yeah, pine nut encrusted antelope backstrap from the previous hunt. And it was, I'm not kidding, it tasted so good. That antelope meat, that was the first time I've really had it the way that you cooked it, Casey. And that's when I was like, yeah, if you've never tried this or if you think it's not good, you're just wrong. I remember saying that.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a super successful trip, a hunt. It turned into a great movie premiere, and then that really kind of spurred off the idea to start the semi-live series.
Definitely did. I remember. So we had all drawn Colorado tags, the same ones me and Eric had went and hunted the year before. And I remember being on the phone with Eric like the day before we left. And this is just kind of how this business has always been ran. It's just kind of winging it. It was just like the movie premiere. It was like we were 6 days into the hunt before we realized that we were just going to document it for a whole movie. And so me and Eric were on the phone. We're like, how should we document this? Blah, blah, blah. And I remember just being like, dude, like we should just it's like try to make it somewhat like a live hunt. And Eric's like, I love that idea. I was thinking about that. Like, how can we do that? And I'm like, and we came up with the idea, like, let's record everything this day, cut it that night. Next day we'll put it up. And so people will be a day behind, but they know, because typically we'd go out and do a hunt, and then it'd be weeks later, if not months later, we'd upload the footage. So we were down
video.
Yeah. So we were uploading stuff to like Facebook and Instagram, but there was no video content out there for them. So we came up with this idea, like, dude, this will hopefully make people feel like they're there with us, because they would watch the video, but they would also know that we were going to be out hunting the next day, and they were going to get to see that, following day. And so all three of us drove down there. And that was the first time, 2015, we did what we called the semi-live hunt. And I still read comments and talk to people that they tell me that's their very favorite hunt we do every year, which we haven't done it for a year now, but it was the Colorado semi-live series.
Yeah. When the service is available, those do very well, just because, like you said, the audience is following along. I think that's what's been super interesting to see change over the years is, most hunting videos, they would compile maybe a week's worth of footage into 22 minutes. That's what TV is. And honestly, even a lot of the DVDs that were made were kind of similar. And I think, the YouTube style and the platform has really transitioned to that, to where you just get to show so much more from the day-to-day stuff, the behind-the-scenes stuff. And it's just so palatable because I think it's very relatable. It reminds a lot of folks of maybe the camps they share with their families and friends. I think that's such a unique component that YouTube brings, is our ability to have the freedom to show whatever we want, really, without any kind of red tape or limitations that you might find on some other platforms. And certainly the movie premiere speaks to that. I think the semi-live series absolutely speaks to that, as two that stand out in my mind, kind of early on back in 2015.
Yeah, the semi-live series, man, that will go down as one of the most talked about things for the Hush channel ever. Still to this day, like Casey said, people are like, man, I just remember when you guys did the semi-live, as soon as I got off work, I just hope that video was uploaded. And that's really what it did. Is it took, 11 or 12 days that first year. So for anybody who's never seen the semi-live, what we would do is we'd be on this deer hunt. We would all film from our different perspectives. We would come home, we'd go to the hotel and compile all the footage, which is just hours of transferring data from phones, cameras, SD cards, etc., and then edit that video that night and just pray that the Wi-Fi would upload it in the hotel for the next day. And I think we had a couple hiccups, but for the most part, we ran that to be live at 5 o'clock every day. And people were just like I would say, like a TV show would lead you wanting more. People really followed along with the storyline and just loved coming home or watching that next day, because it basically each day was a cliffhanger. Like, well, what happens tomorrow?
It's funny you say that, because now you look at like popular entertainment platforms now, and like you look at Netflix is crushing
Yeah.
TV, crushing everything.
That
Because
series, the series style, like that.
it's the
What's
series
coming
style.
next?
When you typically used to watch TV shows, and it's like my family's been watching the Masked Singer since this quarantine began. Weird show, celebrities wear masks, they sing, they get voted off, blah blah blah. But like if it was on TV, you would have to watch it, which it is on TV. But you'd watch it and then you'd have to wait for the next week to see who got voted off or see who the next guy was. But now it's on Hulu, so you can watch like all 3 seasons. And that's basically what we did. We basically created Netflix, if you think about it. But you could it wasn't a like the cliffhanger was only going to last 24 hours till the next one would come up. So people would watch it when they got home from work, eat dinner, go to bed, go to work, and come home excited because they knew the next episode would be there. And we were going to compile it all in those 10 days. And that's what, it really allows you the opportunity to show everything like we've always wanted to do, show the whole hunt, how it goes down from the drive out there to the camp, to the ups, the downs, the misses, the killed deer, and then the drive home. You encapsulate everything. And I think that's why it does so well, is just because it keeps people like wanting more and wanting more.
Yeah. And the fact that it's current, people who were either, you got the people who are like, hey, this is entertaining because I'm at work and I can't hunt, or you got people who are also out hunting and they love that, hey, like, yeah, I'm dealing with the cold, or it's slow for me too. Let's see how these guys are doing. But for so many different reasons, people just connected with that semi-live series and just loved it. Absolutely. That was fun.
That's always stood out as a great one. I know, I think for purposes of time, we'll move along to some of these other kind of milestone markers, but I think, we finally brought on a camera guy in the fall of 2016. Andy was the first person we ever hired. And, just to kind of frame this still, like Eric's the only true guy full-time with Hush at this point in 2016. Casey's still working on his other stuff. I'm working corporate America. And the whole plan is just to hopefully eventually get into a position that we can all do it full-time. That was the end goal for sure. But it had to be, smart. And we finally in 2016 got some companies, some partners, some sponsors, whatever you want to call them, to kind of commit to our vision, our idea of leveraging YouTube and digital platforms, be it Instagram and Facebook in particular, that we could have a similar or greater influence than what they were used to in traditional marketing by means of television or print advertisement. And that was a struggle. That was like probably one of the harder things, was breaking into the outdoor industry, from just getting companies to believe in us and then also, financially support us. And finally in 2016, it happened. We had a handful of companies that committed early on and said, well, let's see how it goes. And, we'll reevaluate the next year. And thankfully that was like a big relief. It's just like anything, breaking in is so hard and once you kind of get in, it seems to progressively get a little bit easier because folks, you've got relationships, people can vouch for you. But that initial, trial of trying to break through the wall was pretty challenging. So that was another kind of a big milestone that sticks out to me. It was that 2016 year when people were like, okay, yes. And those first couple companies that actually wrote us a check and like, holy cow, because we're not making hardly anything back in 2016. I mean, we're scratching by enough money from selling some stuff on the website to get Eric paid for. And that's kind of it, really.
Yeah, we had basically 2 buckets of revenue at that time. The merchandise did well. And then, the CPMs, the money YouTube would send us was a little bit, but we were getting by. We weren't building up a giant bankroll or anything, but we were getting by. We were getting Eric paid, paying for some hunts, some trips like that. And then the sponsorship money came on, and that really allowed us to, like Brian said, bring on a camera guy, to hopefully up our quality or up what we were trying to do. And 2016, I think that really happened.
Yeah, Brian obviously took the lead when it came to contacting the companies, writing up proposals. I mean, I remember sitting in some of the meetings, and usually you go grab lunch, and BMAC's just taking the conversation, and I'm just there like, like, yep.
Me and Eric would always be like, why are we here?
Yeah, why am I
We're
here?
not adding to this.
Hey man, we each have our roles, right? That's
for sure.
That's the beauty of the partnership we've all created, is we play off each other's strengths and weaknesses, and hopefully we leverage the strengths. But that definitely has been, I think, one of the things that's helped us grow over the years is our ability to lean on each other where we're strongest, and I feel like we really complement one another in that regard. But that was great. You know, I think 2017 had some cool projects. We got a chance to go do a fun hunt with Adam Weatherby, which turned into a movie premiere. Even before that, we had the Time and Pressure movie premiere from the fall of 2016, which was another great one. Those are just a couple of things that stand out. And then like the Land of the Free series was another one in 2017. All these things just kind of keep compiling. So like I feel like our momentum of being able to create content has just been, you know, slowly increasing year over year over year. As Eric got more comfortable, he really just crushed it from being the face of the company and just being like a straight hustler when it came to content. Like from when you started up until today, but you just those early years, you were just like so consistent with putting out tons of content, which I really think
I have to bring this up. Yeah, like
helped a
Eric is
ton.
always crushed, but like when in 2015 when he came on, I remember like I'd be like, okay, go do this thing. Like go, you know, you see my vision, I see your vision, go do it. For the first little while, like he would go and film a video and he'd have to send it to me, and he was all nervous about uploading it. And finally I was like, Eric, run with it like you stole it. And then from that day on, man, it's just like consistent content, great content, year after year after year. Like, and like going back to like what Brian said, like Eric has what I need and I have what Eric needs. And we accomplished, you know, accompanying each other very well to that, because consistent content always wins at the end of the day. And Eric was able to accomplish that, which really helped us grow and get to where we're at today. So good work, Eric.
Yeah, thanks, man. I've always loved sharing content. Going back to like what I talked about earlier, it was really my way of giving back to the community that I felt like I consumed so much of. And it's just crazy to think that the audience has changed from basically hooking up the audio video cables to show maybe my mom and dad and like a couple buddies, to this huge worldwide audience, you know, once you taught me about YouTube. And yeah, so thank you both. But I love still to this day sharing content, and it's evolved in so many ways I didn't think possible. Like, you know, the messages we get about, hey, you guys have changed my life, you've inspired me, you've saved my life, or thank you that, you know, this is kid friendly, I can let my kids sit down and watch it, you guys have made hunting cool for my son, thank you so much. It's just, it still blows my mind, like what putting out content can do.
Oh yeah.
I could vividly remember driving home from our first semi-live hunt in Colorado, and I think it was Casey and I in my truck, and you, Eric, drove your own truck, and thinking like, man, could this actually turn into, you know, what we would hope it could turn into? Because back then it was, you know, it was doing okay, but it was still relatively new and small, and it was more or less an idea. And I think, you know, the three of us were building some momentum, having worked together a little bit, but by no means were we, you know, seasoned partners or anything. And I just remember like, dude, do you think, Casey, that this could like turn into a bigger channel, kind of like your family vlog channel, one that could support all of us to be able to do this full time? And I mean, none of us would have dreamed it would have turned into this. I don't think. I know we certainly didn't think that might be a possibility. You know, it was like maybe, but gosh, I don't know. That drive stood out though.
I remember you proposing that question to me, and I really had to think about it, because I'd seen like Casey Levere, you know, channel like take off over the years, and I was, you know, 5 years into it at that point, or 4 years, and it was doing well. And then, you know, I think we were like right at like 60 or 70,000 subscribers maybe on Hushin in 2015.
Yep.
And then you asked that question, I was like, yeah, I think we could like get to a point where we could all do it, but you know, 100,000, maybe 150,000, like we're gonna have to get up to those numbers. And in the back of my head, you know, I always question it, because you never know. No one's ever retired from this game yet. No one's ever started a YouTube channel and retired from it, as far as I know. It's still very new in the process. And so you never know what's going to take place. But what I do know is we're all committed to working hard at it and developing our, you know, our content and our channel, and just ways that we could get paid through sponsorship or whatever. And that's kind of where we're at today. Is, you know, we don't know what tomorrow is going to.
We're losing
What Eric was saying, sometimes Can you hear me?
Your internet in Idaho obviously isn't as good as ours in Salt Lake. You're cutting out a little bit, but
Yeah, my internet's like
there-
slowing down. Anyway, so like what Eric was saying is like, this is a full-time job. Like this is actually in August. I wrote this down in August. This coming August will be 9 years that I've been doing full-time. It's the longest run I've ever had. My longest job was 5 years at the steel mill. It's tough, but what Eric was saying was it sticks out is making content is important to other people as well. Like there's nothing more gratifying to me like when we go to an expo and a dad and a wife and there's like 3 little ones come walking in, introduce themselves, and they are so thrilled to meet us because they sit down and they watch the content with each other every night when we were doing, best season yet 1, best season yet 2. Like they sit down and they watch it as a family and they're entertained, and it creates this excitement to help get the kids out on a hunt next year or a fishing trip or whatever it might be. And that's what's important to us. And that's kind of like why when we started together on all this in 2015, we sat down and we decided what our why was, right? Like everyone says, you have to have a why. And we came up with the 3 pillars of the reason why we want to do this. And that was, to give back to a local charity or to an individual that might need some help. It's for conservation or land access, and it's to get new people involved in either hunting or fishing. We call it new hunter acquisition, right? And we've always said since day one, like if we commit to those 3 things and we're doing those 3 things in anything we do, we will be successful. We don't know where this is going to go, but what we do know is if we commit to those 3 things, we are going to be a successful company.
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy, yeah, to see where it's all come. I think it's been a heck of a run, and kind of finishing out the timeline real quick before, and we'll try to wrap up. I know this is probably going a little longer than normal, but it is what it is, right? It's a long story.
This is the normal because it's the first ever.
It's the first ever. That's right. So in January of 2018, it's pretty cool. But we hired Logan full time, and throughout this time frame, again, right now Eric is the full time person, and then we brought on Logan. I think one of the things, like for those that are interested in entrepreneurship, we really didn't take any money out of the business other than to pay Eric's salary and to get by on supplies, travel. We ran a really lean ship, and that was on purpose. Again, the end game is we all want to be doing this full time.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes takes a process. So we were very conscious of through the money we were able to generate through our website sales, through Google AdSense, obviously through partnership money. Those are kind of our main buckets of money. And the key was just to have us financially secure enough down the road that we could eventually be all full-time, and it wouldn't be a huge strain on the business or to us individually of like making it a giant risk. So at this point now we got Logan on board, which is super cool because he's been around since day one. Obviously, if you listen on the beginning, he was around helping Casey edit those initial videos from Hushin with Levere all the way to the season of 2013 when he really elevated our creative and, Casey's fall season. And now we have him as a cameraman starting in the year of January, I guess it was, of 18. So I think that was a huge addition. Those of you that have followed along the channel, you realize Logan's creative ability, his talents. He's certainly improved our quality on that. And he's just a great guy to have on the part of the team. I think 2018 overall was a pretty huge year too. Like we kind of retooled in June on our partnership. Again, for those interested in the business side, we at some point along the lines, I became a small partner in the company as well. And I think in June of 18, we all kind of came together and redid the whole like operating agreement. Again, this is like the evolution of a hobby to like a business. And let's
rephrase that. We didn't it was the first time we ever wrote anything down.
Yeah, true. We actually created a business operating agreement.
We actually hired an attorney to do it for us, so it was legal, which was the first time we'd ever taken any steps to like legitimize this thing as a business and as ownership in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Eric had agreed on ownership when he came on, and then we offered Brian a little bit, but he never took any at first. But yeah, June is when everything became legal and we became all equal partners in the business.
And that was too the plan, where it was like, okay, Casey's like we're at a point now it makes sense to try to make this happen. Let's make a run at it. If we're all doing this full time, gosh, what could it turn into? And I know Casey kind of decided to transition out of your personal channel to do Hush full time. And then I had put my notice in too for corporate America, but then continued on, I think through September before I finally cut ties. But that was another kind of milestone moment, I think, in my eyes where, gosh, thinking back to the beginning of this from 2012, kind of when we first started getting to know one another, 2013, and then, kind of all meeting around that 2014, 2015 timeframe to like 3 or 4 years later, we're finally like pushing our chips in and saying like, let's see what happens here. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that was a huge milestone, which then kind of honestly really led us into that best season yet style of the fall of 2018, which I think was another really cool project that came together, where we made a pretty large commitment to filming and also uploading.
Yeah, that's when we literally took like, Hushlife, the movie premiere, and then the first Set My Life series, which we did every year for the next 3 years until 2018. We're like, well, people love that style of filming. Let's just do that on a bigger scale for the whole entire season, however many days that might be. So our idea, the first best season yet 1.0 was no matter what you're doing, it's going to be 3 perspectives. Brian might be in Oregon on vacation and Eric's on a hunt and I'm home doing whatever, but we're all going to film. So we have 3 perspectives and we're going to combine it into a day and we're going to upload it starting October 31st, 2018. And that's what we did. And it ended up being 88 videos total.
Yeah. 84
straight through. 84 videos in a row.
So, and that was a lot of work. When you get home, we compiled basically 2 months of footage, and we all started just like me, Eric, and Logan just started going through and editing it, getting it ready, trying to be like, our plan was to be 2 weeks ahead when we uploaded it, when we pushed the button.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of work, but people liked it. We got some feedback that maybe people didn't want to see so much of what maybe we were doing if we weren't on a hunt. And then moving into 2019, that's kind of where we readjusted.
Yeah. Well, we were
at 2.0.
We saw a hole too, right? As we're growing now, like we needed another person. And the hole was that, if you haven't noticed much, but Eric and Casey and Logan are really content driven. And I kind of work more on the business side of stuff, and not necessarily my forte. I don't necessarily do much editing to speak of. So we were really lucky to bring Martin on to the team as well. And I think it was May of 2019, I want to say. Is that sound right?
19. Yep. He wanted, it's so funny. That should be a whole nother topic. We should have Logan and Martin on here and kind of like introduce like their stories, their perspectives, and how they came on board. So I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, Martin came, late spring of 19, and kind of, the kids just got the mentality to get out, go hard. And we had similar lifestyles. It's a really cool story. I'd love to share that on a whole different podcast or whatever we're calling this. But yeah, that year, we just, out of the gate, him and I started filming shed hunting videos, and it went right into our summer stuff and into the fall. And it was a great addition to the team.
For sure. BSY 2.0, kind of similar, but hopefully a little better. We listened to some feedback as far as folks maybe not being as interested in some of the vlog behind the scenes. And so we tried to cut most of that out and just show the hunts as they were. And instead of bouncing back and forth between so many different hunts, just let every hunt run its course on its own. And
beginning to end.
I think overall the benefits are, man, with a team of 5 now, we can really divide and conquer. But I think that's also an opportunity, and it's something that we miss, is going back to the old days and where we were all hunting together. So that's certainly, I know it's something that we're going to make hopefully an attempt and an effort for moving forward into 2020 to try to do more of. We always have such a great time, but truly it's a balance of, if we're all together, we can only create the videos from that one trip, versus if we're, dividing and spreading out across multiple states, we just have that ability to add that many more hunts to however we end up, rolling out stuff for the coming year. But it's been a crazy, wild ride. I really think, for me, like we're living a dream, like coming from corporate America relatively soon. It's only been like a year and a half or so. We're so lucky to be able to do this and wake up and love what you do. And, you know, it's certainly parts of it are work, but so much of it is really fun. And for those still listening to this super long, whatever we're calling it, podcast thing, we really cannot thank you guys enough for the support, for watching our videos, following us on social, maybe grabbing a hat, maybe sharing it with someone else that you think might enjoy it. We truly appreciative of the support over the years. And like I think everybody always says, it couldn't happen without those of you watching. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
Closing
most
remarks,
definitely.
guys. What do you think, Case?
So a couple things. So we just walked you through the start of the company till we are where we're at today. We just talked about what we did in 2018 and 2019 with the way we filmed things for Best Season Yet 1.0 and 2.0. Give us some ideas of what you would like to see this upcoming season. We have some ideas what we want to do, but let us know if you've watched the Best Season Yet 1.0 or 2.0. Let us know maybe some things you want to see different, or if you have a complete different idea, let us know. Also, give us some topics. We're going to be trying to do these Zoom calls at least, I think, once a week until we get through this and we can actually get out and create some content. But let us know some topics that you guys want to talk about. You know, we've had a lot of people ask like how this got started and where it got started, and so that's kind of why we decided to tell the story of Hush today. But we've also had people that want to talk about camera gear, camera equipment, but whatever you guys might want to hear from us or know, let us know, and we'll try to reach them. But yes, we're living in a crazy time, guys. Hopefully you're staying safe, you're staying healthy, and we keep saying this. We're going to come out of this thing one day, and hopefully we come out of this thing better. I know I'm going to be a lot more appreciative of the freedoms that we do have in this country, and just, you know, come out of this with higher hopes for everything moving forward. So hopefully you're staying safe and you're staying positive as well.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of take off and finish my little last words, kind of where BMAC did. Would just like to thank everyone who has supported us along the way. I'd say probably mostly during the Hunt Expo, we get to meet a ton of people. And I think we have all realized that our demographics, you know, we have the analytics in the back end, but there is every age. You know, we have met people from every age, male, female, kids, hunters, non-hunters that come to the expo and support us. So I'd just like to say thanks to absolutely everybody who has supported us along the way. We want to create an atmosphere where everybody feels welcome and to join the Hushlife. And for anybody who's not following us or any new listeners, we'd like to welcome anybody. You know, I just like to think that it's not bow hunting versus rifle hunting. In this space, there's so much back and forth on some topics, but for the people that support us, I just want to welcome anybody and everybody to come along with this journey with us, follow us on social media, watch YouTube. And for anybody who supports us through the merchandise, I'm so thankful because I see our products as not like a necessity. Even like a time like this, through this whole crazy coronavirus thing, people are buying our shirts and hats. And I'm like, if I could just hug every one of these people, because I don't see our stuff as like a necessity, like a shirt or a hat, but people buy our stuff to support us. So I just want to say thank you to everyone out there, and invite anyone to take this journey with us, because we're just kind of sharing our life and documenting our stories and sharing them with you guys, and everybody's a part of it.
Couldn't have said it better, brother. It was fun, guys, going down memory lane.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to bringing some more of these Zoom video calls while we're kind of sitting at home quarantined. So again, let us know who you'd like to have on as guests potentially, or any topics, and we will do our best to get to you. So thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Yeah. See you, everybody.
See you guys.